Danny's not even speaking. I'm waiting for Bill Harrison. Oh. Lock the door to start. Good evening. Today is Monday, February 10th, 2024, and the meeting of the Public Safety Commission has been called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather, and it is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and the Gabrielino Kits peoples. This evening, I've asked Ray to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ray.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ray. Commission Secretary, may we have a roll call, please?
Test. Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Here.
Commissioner Hallman?
Here.
Commissioner Nickel?
Here.
Commissioner Post?
Here.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Here.
Chair Aramian?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Item 4 on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for February 10, 2025?
We have no changes.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
May I please get a roll call? Commission Secretary.
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner Post?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Aye.
Chair Aramian?
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Item 5 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for January 27, 2025?
We have no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
May I please get a roll call? Commission Secretary.
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner Post?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Aye.
Chair Ramian?
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Great. Item 6 on the agenda is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we do. Our first speaker is Agnew Wilson. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Speaking, I gotta get that out of the way. And I was so afraid. I haven't pledged allegiance to the flag since the 1960s, so I was afraid I wasn't going to get that. I did it. Hello, good evening. I'll take your time really quickly. I've lived in this city right across the street in the same apartment for the last 30 years. I've lived here since 1980 at Santa Monica and San Vicente, right above beaches. There's a bar there, gym bar, and there's an apartment building. I've lived there, the same apartment for the last 30 years. In the last 30 years, I've had cars and I haven't had cars. And so the times that I haven't had cars, I've been a pedestrian. And I have been walking these streets for a long time. And in the last 2 years, I've noticed, I'm just going to give a report without giving a backup. I've noticed an extreme uptick in crime. And one of the things that I'm having a problem with, I've made a lot of calls to the Sheriff's Department, I've spoken to the mayor, I've spoken to other people at City Hall. There's two issues. The Santa Monica and San Vicente intersection here, the out of control number of people running the reds, and I'm not talking about yellow to red, I'm talking about people blatantly blowing red lights. I've been nearly hit in the last 2 years. I've documented 14 times while in the crosswalk, while on a green light, and somebody just decides to either blow the intersection going east and west or make an illegal left, and been honked at, cussed at. That's one thing. The other thing is the uptick with the unhoused individuals sleeping, smoking methamphetamine. I can see this out my window. I take videos of it. Masturbating. I've been spit on. My roommate and I have been, I've been kicked in the street. I've been pushed in the street. I've been robbed at gunpoint and baseball bat right here on Robertson and San Vicente. So I know that the city has, all of these services that does a great job at helping unhoused individuals get services they need. And I'm not saying that nobody's doing their job. I just judge the fruit of a tree by the fruit it produces. And I know that, so it's nobody's one, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm saying the collective group of City Hall and the West Hollywood Sheriffs and the security ambassadors isn't providing enough, in my opinion, security, because I walk the street between Santa Monica and here and Fairfax every day. And the stuff I see on the streets is amazing. And I've been told all these reasons why it happens. And if I go to Beverly Hills, which I do all the time, I don't see it anywhere. And I've spoken to the security ambassadors there about, well, what is it different about here? And their collective answer is that this is Beverly Hills. And so I'm just saying the city is, in my opinion, isn't doing enough for pedestrians out on the street for red lights and the out of control unhoused situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agnew. Next, we have Wendy Goldman. If you want to approach the podium, you will have 3 minutes.
Wendy Goldman, West Hollywood. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners, city staff, and distinguished guests. I would like to address the public parking lot that we use when we attend meetings and events here. The number of large vehicles that jut out and prevent safe passage to incoming and outgoing traffic is a major safety hazard. Many vehicles are backed into the spaces and block passage. Quite a few people who park here need more turn space than is available when large SUVs are at the corners. Please find a way to improve the safety in the parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Next, we have Steve Martin. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. As Steve Martin, West Hollywood, and I just, on behalf of our group, I just want to reiterate how grateful we are for all the hard work of the county firefighters, the sheriff's department, our first responders over the last several weeks. It's been really stressful, and particularly for those of us on the east side who were at one point threatened by the Runyon fire, the fact that the city and the county worked so well together to tap that fire down within hours really made a difference. And we appreciate the efforts that city staff made and some of the city council members made to alert people, but we just need to look at this as an opportunity. The idea that we could have an Eaton fire here is something we couldn't really wrap our head around, last December. But it's actually a possibility, and we have a number of interfaces like we saw at Doheny and Sunset, and over where I'm at. Where there's this urban fire interface where things could jump over and get out of control. And without being critical of anyone, we just need to learn from what's happened and try to create a plan. I mean, it's been really kind of disheartening the last couple of weeks, in the media, in the LA Times, it's just like almost nonstop people trying to get attention. Everybody's got criticisms of who did what to what. And, other than the things that were pointed out by Kristen Crawley, the chief of the LA Fire Department, about the lack of investment in training and in infrastructure and in staff, most of this stuff has just been Monday morning quarterbacking. And it's very, very frustrating because I think that people made decisions based on limited knowledge, but it was on the knowledge that they had, and it was based on their professionalism. And at the end of the day, when you're in a crisis, that's all you've got. But we really need to learn a lot. The county, obviously, the city of Los Angeles needs to learn a lot. But whatever we can do here, I think would be appropriate. Certainly, given what we saw on Fountain, we need to look at how that street is going to be important to us in the future, particularly since we may be facing construction within the next 12 months. So anyway, thank you very much, and thanks for your help.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we have Stephanie Harker. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners, staff, and everyone else. Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. A topic that I'm not sure what to do with. Perhaps someone can give me advice. A neighbor of mine about a block away had some new neighbors move into her duplex, and one of the gentlemen, it's two guys, one of them has been bragging that he works for ICE. And not too long after that, maybe the next night, I happened to see an article from CNN saying that there are people impersonating ICE officers. And I'm wondering if that's something that could be handled or someone can check on that somehow and make sure, because I can't imagine that an ICE officer would be walking around bragging about it somehow. It doesn't seem safe to me. So I don't have any clue to whom I should report that, but I feel like it should be looked into. Also, I have a friend from years ago who used to volunteer at the Sheriff's Department, and I think I've brought this up before, that the volunteers are not provided bulletproof jackets or vests. And I think the least we can do, because this guy had put in thousands of hours, but and he didn't really complain about it, he just commented on it. But in this day and times, I think it would be advisable that if the Sheriff's Department doesn't have the funding for that, that the City of West Hollywood would fund that. Maybe less money on ice skating rinks and more money on safety for the people who dedicate themselves as volunteers working for the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And our final speaker is on Zoom, Catherine Ang. Catherine, if you can hear us, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Because I don't have audio. Well, okay, I'm going to speak because I'm going to presume that you can hear me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I am actually going to continue kind of what Steve Martin was saying. We were incredibly lucky that the Sunset Fire results were as they were, and I think that all of us are using this opportunity to figure out what changes we can make and to evolve from there. I know that the city is, and I'm very grateful for that. One thing that I want to bring up within that conversation is I think something super basic that the ubiquitous we tend to forget is the city limits and the fact that people often don't know whether they're in West Hollywood. And I know that that's really basic, but I think it's important to remember, and I think that that might help in some of the messaging that we put out, because I found after the fire that I would speak to people, and there were people that said that they were evacuated, but they weren't, and there were people that said that they weren't evacuated, but they needed to be, et cetera. And a lot of times when I asked them where they lived, it turned out that they actually didn't live in West Hollywood, and when I would say, you're not actually in West Hollywood, they'd come back with, well, adjacent. And I actually do think that that affects the perception of what safety is in our city, because oftentimes people will think that crime is worse. Statistically, I understand that the Sheriff's Department will be discussing the stats this evening, and that is that they are down again. And I think when you read public perception and you hear that people think that it's up, I do think one of the contributing factors is that people don't actually know whether they're in West Hollywood or not. So that's number one. And then the second thing, I wrote a public comment after the fire talking about engaging both older adult commission, restaurant advisory, and disabilities to help with messaging. But something that really occurred to me is that what makes the most sense is to maximize the systems that are already in place. And really that is social media. I understand the avoidance. I'll point out that I actually didn't even sign up for Twitter, which I now don't have, but I waited 10 years before I got a Twitter account. I understand people's aversion to it, but I do see that it was the most effective tool for communication. So I do want to request or maybe point out or suggest that we find ways to have people utilize the system that's already in place, and that is social. So I hope that that can be better utilized. I hope that these organizations and the community at large can help people that are averse to it to understand, again, that it is the most useful tool that we have until something better comes up. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I wish you all a good meeting, and thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, and that is all for the public comments.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Item 7 on our agenda is unfinished business, and there is no unfinished business on the agenda for this evening. 8A on our agenda this evening is new business, and it will be a report from the Los Angeles County Fire Department.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Tonight, Assistant Division Fire Chief Drew Smith is attending a City Council meeting in the city of Malibu to discuss recent fires, so unfortunately he's unable to be with us tonight. I will report on the January data, and if there's any questions, I will make sure to take that back to the fire department and get responses to you by the next meeting, if not sooner. For the month of January 2025, in the city of West Hollywood, the Los Angeles County Fire Department responded to a total of 681 calls for service. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any comments at this time?
I do.
Commissioner Freeman?
That's close enough. I was going to wait until they were here, but I think this is more of a city question, and I could probably direct this to Director Rivas. I know they talked a lot in the Pacific Palisades about the fire hydrants not working. So can you give us an overall of are ours working? Are they inspected? Who they're inspected by? Have there been any problems? Has there been any problems with low pressure or anything of that sort?
Thank you, Commissioner Freiberg. Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the city. And so as far as we are aware, our fire hydrants are stable. And that's the information that we're provided both by two different water agencies that service West Hollywood. So we have Beverly Hills Water Department that services a portion of West Hollywood, and then we have the City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. That also services areas in the community. So as far as we know, that's the information that we're provided. Both of those agencies in their respective areas within our community are responsible for inspecting those fire hydrants. I know that the fire department obviously accesses those fire hydrants, when there are fires, but that primary responsibility is relayed to those water departments that I mentioned. So I also believe that the fire department does periodic checks, but in terms of water pressure, et cetera, those are things that are definitely done by those utility companies. So.
No, do they have inspections once a year, twice a year? Do you get the reports? Does the city get the reports?
I don't know the frequency of when they do those inspections. The water utility agencies typically communicate with our Public Works Department that manages more or less kind of the utilities and whatnot. So we can definitely reach out and kind of get more information and provide that to the commission.
Yeah, that'd be great if, for our next meeting, if we can get an update on that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? I have one question in regards to the rubbish fires that were started January 2nd and January 5th. If we can find out, were those dumpsters, were those fires, were they started by unhoused individuals? Do we know that? Can we find out if it was an unhoused individual? And if those dumpsters were locked, because I know there are some dumpsters in the city of West Hollywood that Athens does lock them, and maybe that's something we consider, maybe having to lock the dumpsters to prevent future rubbish fires, and maybe we just get the input of the fire department on that as well.
We will request that information and bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Great. Commission Secretary, do you have any public speakers?
We don't have any public speakers on this item.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on. Item 8B on our agenda for this evening will be the report from Block by Block Security Ambassadors Program. Good evening, Erica.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the month of January, we'd like to report ambassadors conducting 3,206 business contacts, 774 unhoused contacts, and responding to 324 calls for service. In total, we also performed 35 safety escorts for January. I do want to take a second to highlight some calls for service that our ambassadors responded to that I think would highlight the great work that they're doing. First, the first call on January 3rd, during a proactive patrol at WeHo Park, our ambassadors encountered an unhoused female who stated that she had been assaulted. They immediately assessed the situation, involved the sheriffs. Sheriffs responded, and they were able to get this unhoused individual some help in regards to her assault at the park. On January 6th, we received a call for service about an individual who was behind the wheel at a parked residential location who looked to be under the influence. Our ambassadors responded at about 3:17 a.m., knocked on the window as this individual looked to be in an under the influence state. They assessed that he did seem intoxicated. They escalated to the sheriffs. Sheriffs arrived and arrested the individual for a DUI. On January 16th, we had received a report from Burgers about a individual who was starting some fires in the area. Turned out to be the same individual who ambassadors a couple of days prior also saw starting small fires at Plummer Park. They identified him as the same individual, escalated to sheriffs, and he was arrested. And then finally, couple more actually. On January 26th, during a proactive patrol, one of our ambassadors was conducting a patrol on Santa Monica Boulevard near the Charlie 7-Eleven Curson area, noticed that there were some broken glass into an open business. He called the sheriff's department. Sheriffs responded, and they found a known individual inside the property who was arrested. He was a known unhoused individual. And then finally, on January 11th, we received a call for service for an unresponsive female. on Santa Monica Boulevard. Our ambassador responded and administered Narcan. In that time, another ambassador also assisted, administered additional Narcan. Paramedics later arrived and assisted that female and transported her to the hospital. So January was busy with a lot of activity in, with the fires, but I also want to take a minute to commend our ambassadors for, what they do out in the public area for January. I know it was busy, but thought I'd take a second to commend their work. So if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Any commissioner comments? No. Commissioner Freeberg?
Close enough. Hi, Erica.
Hi.
Just a quick question. You talked about you didn't have N95 masks for the ambassadors during the fires. Do you plan on getting any?
I don't know if that was miscommunicated, but yes, we did.
Oh, you did have
We did.
them?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Okay, so you have enough
Oh, yeah, and we still have some. We have general
Plenty.
masks. So, yeah, and so air quality has been stable since the fires, but we definitely had N95 masks for our ambassadors during the fires.
And then definitely enough if another fire started.
We still have some in stock, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Any other commissioner comments?
If I can, Chair, just really quick.
Commissioner
Thank you
Blau?
for the report. Can you, I don't know if you have a tally, but I think it would be really good and interesting just to show the value of block by block, if we can at some point get a tally of how many instances of block by block has administered Narcan to a unresponsive individual. I think that might be really good for the community to see the numbers, because I know it's happened a number of times as well that you've reported previously. I think that would be interesting just to see kind of a summary. I might also just be able to hunt through and find them, but if you have that readily available, that would be great to see at some point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we have one public speaker, Agnew Wilson. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi, Adam. I just want to answer your question. With regards to the dumpster fires, one of them recently was in, so one was started behind my building 3 years ago in my big dumpster. I called Athens and we replaced it because along that alley, somebody had been setting fires to dumpsters then, all right. So we got a metal locking container, but the recycling center has a lot of homeless people that use the rolling dumpsters, the rolling, Athens, the green and blue and black ones. They roll their cans and bottles to the recycling. So I had worked with Athens because they leave them in my alley. I've worked with Athens I collect them and roll them up the street. It was a homeless man that set fire to one of those trash cans that my neighbor called the fire department on, and they put it out right below my apartment. So, and I wanted to say also publicly, thank you to the security ambassadors because they really do a great job. The times that I do call, they're really responsive, and I'm really, really grateful to the security ambassadors because they really do make a difference. And God bless. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Agnew. And that is all for the public comments.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Erica.
You're welcome.
Item 8C on our agenda for this evening will be a report from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Good evening, Sergeant and Lieutenant.
Good evening, Commissioners. So the West Hollywood Sheriff's Station January call data, we handled 1,566 calls for service in the month of January, with 91 of these being for an emergency response. Deputies made 45 felony arrests and 63 misdemeanor arrests. Our Part 1 crimes for the month of January, we had 164 incidents compared to last year in January. That's down a little over 19% in comparison. Our Part 1 crime data by district, our West District was responsible for 51% of that Part 1 crimes at 84. City Center was 20% at 33. East was 29% at 47. We had 8 reported pickpocketing incidents in the Rainbow District in the month of January. Our MET team responded to a total of 66 incidents in the city for the month. Our station volunteers donated a total of 239 hours of service in January, including 34 of those hours assisting in the Palisades and Eaton fire incidents. There's one incident that we just wanted to bring up that was brought up in some social media and some local media. On January 27th, deputies were patrolling the 1000 block of Sierra Bonita Avenue in the city of West Hollywood. They saw 2 individuals that appeared to be involved in some possible narcotic activity. The deputies stopped to investigate. Upon contacting the individuals, they conducted a records check and found that one of the individuals had a warrant for his arrest out of San Bernardino County. That warrant was for murder. The individual was wanted for an unprovoked attack of a 79-year-old man that led to his death. San Bernardino officials are extremely thankful for the arrest and the man charged with this crime because it was such a shocking and brutal incident, and they hope that this arrest will bring some solemn closure for the family. And that's all we have for the report today.
Thank you.
I wanted to bring up a couple of things that have been up in the news as of late. Today, as a matter of fact, the ICE signs that you've seen posted, not physically seen, but there's an article and actually the news picked it up. We're working together with our businesses to try and collect any type of video to try and identify the individuals that could have potentially put those up. So it is under investigation, not in a sense as a criminal act, but just to identify who were the individuals that put those 8 or 9 signs that were within the city. And we're also, I know I talked to Commissioner Post in regards to Prop 36, the Prop 36 overview. Next month's meeting, we're going to have our Detective Sergeant come out and do a quick presentation, just kind of an overview of what Prop 36 and how we're going to handle those. But just bear in mind that that is a DA handle, but it's the edict that they've given us on what we need to do as far as first, second, third, offenses. But hopefully next month we'll have a small presentation just so that you all are familiar with that specific edict. And again, the same thing we brought up as far as the immigration in our jails. We're still standing with, they're not going to be allowed in our jails. We're standing with the same edict as far as that the sheriff has. Nothing's going to change on the changes that our federal government is doing. And then we're open to any question you might have.
Any commissioner comments?
If I can, Chair.
Commissioner Blau?
Thank you. I just want to, again, thank you, the sheriffs and fire department and Block by Block for, continuing. This is the month of January that we're looking at here, and the emergency response times, even given everything else that was going on, still quite low, and a lot of work that was done. So I just want to as well thank you again for what we're looking at here and what you continue to do. A separate question. The city parking lot that just opened on the southwest corner of Crescent Heights and Santa Monica Boulevard in the last-ish month. Has there been any issues surrounding that? I know it's lit super well and it's very clear from a very busy Santa Monica Boulevard, but I was just curious if we've seen any kind of issues with that parking lot at all yet.
Nothing that's been reported to us.
Okay.
I don't know if there's been any reports to Block by Block or parking control, but as far as any criminal activity reported to us, nothing has been reported to us.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Thank you for your presentation. Just a quick question on your SORTS report, which is your online reporting tracking system. Are you noticing any trends on that? There were 50 reports.
Most of the reports that are being submitted are falling within the criteria. Most of them are theft related. We get a lot of lost or stolen cell phone type of data in those sorts reports. Some of those reports, that number that you're seeing there, that's the total of number of reports that we received. Some of those get kicked back because they don't qualify once they get reviewed. And what happens is our station contacts those people and lets them know that their report didn't qualify for a source report and that they need to come in or have us come out to do a report. But the majority is theft or lost property.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Post?
Yes, just two quick things. Thanks for Prop 36. Looking forward to that next meeting. And it brings back one other piece, which I was talking to you as well, which I think is more for Danny. I know we as a commission kind of talked about getting a review of how kind of this human service operators, Healthcare in Action, other groups operate with the sheriffs, and when is Healthcare in Action deferring a case to the sheriffs or vice versa and things like that. So we'd just love to get that conversation going and see more of how those operations actually overlap. But looking forward to Prop 36. And then the only other incident I had is that I actually was personally a victim of mail theft recently in our building. Nothing too big, just some leftover Christmas presents my mom was sending out. But it just brings up again, I know it's brought up in the commission before, if there's any tips of how to decrease that even within residents or buildings. I have seen our building did put in cameras probably about 9 months ago, and I feel like we've had a reduction in reports of mail theft, and we actually do have photo evidence because of those cameras now of it was an Uber driver that dropped food off and took the packages on the way out. So even is there a spot that I should be sending that information to, or is it kind of that I should be filing a formal report with that stuff?
Well, you should call the station and then have a deputy go out there and file a report of the mail theft, especially if you have video footage of that. But also the cops and the EPT team can actually go out to your building and do an assessment, and they can talk to you with the homeowners association in regards to we can make recommendations as to what we see, whether it be lighting cameras, securing doors, or so we can do that as well. But the main thing is reporting it, because you might think it's not a whole lot, but if you have video, we can actually have video from the next in victim that we can actually stack these reports, and if and once we do identify that individual or we arrest somebody with mail, then we can go back to those reports and see, okay, well, these were the reports that were written and these are our victims, and then we can actually charge them.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other quick little tip that we also like to advise people of is that USPS offers a service called Informed Delivery. A lot of people have that, but it really helps us when things like this do happen, because some people don't know what was stolen, if anything at all. So if you have something like that, you'll kind of have an idea what was stolen. And if you don't know what Informed Delivery is, it's a free service that the USPS provides where you can register. And it basically takes a picture of your mail that's incoming with a delivery date on it, so you have an idea of what's coming.
Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your report. We received an email today from a resident whose car was broken into on the east side, actually it was between Ogden and Genesee on Romaine. This person had the same thing happen to them in 2023. Do you know anything about this? I mean, it just happened. I don't know if the report is fresh in your mind.
We personally don't know anything about that particular incident. I was looking at the data for the East Side car burglaries for the month of January. There's been 6, which any at all is too high, but it seems like it is a little high for that district for last month. But we will look into that incident. I wasn't aware of it. A car burglary incident wouldn't be normally brought to our attention for this meeting or this report, but we can definitely look into it and see what happened.
Yeah, we just became aware of it today. And I also absolutely want to commend the deputies for the arrest of the murder suspect. It just shows when you're on the street and you have eyes on things, you guys are trained to look for issues, and it can lead to really good results after a bad situation. I did just have a question that it said that there was narcotics activity that got the attention of the deputies. Was it using or drug dealing, or do we know what was happening?
So I can provide a little bit more info with that without giving too much detail. The deputy that was there was one of our more seasoned deputies, and he recognized one of the individuals as prior narcotics seller. So that's what got his attention. And then there were some details that went on that he recognized as possible activity, and that was the reason for them contacting those individuals.
So was the murder suspect the one who was a known seller? It was the
No,
other one.
the other person.
But the other person was released, yes?
Yeah, after they contacted both of them, the murder suspect, but the warrant was the only person that was in violation of anything or wanted for a crime at that time.
Got it. Okay. I think that was all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. There's so many things that our Sheriff Department does well here, and thank you very much for everything that you do for the residents in the city. But my question is piggybacked on the comment from the community, a resident, who questioned why certain things happen here but do not happen in Beverly Hills, when there are sister city right next door to us. Because, you know, I've lived here since '85. You know, on the streets, especially through the Rainbow District, there's a lot going on there. You know, if residents, patrons are out trying to enjoy the city, bars, restaurants, you have to navigate around. So what are they doing that we're not doing? Because why should someone who's lived somewhere 30 years have to continually deal with this malevolence to get in and out of their residence? I'm just not understanding, like, how can we be better in this area?
I can't speak to what Beverly Hills is doing. It's something that I can reach out to them to see if they're doing anything different than we are. I mean, I know that we work well with our human services, and I know that this is something that I was talking to Commissioner Post in regards to trying to formulate our cops deputies and APT deputies, you know, are one of the main, you know, things that they do is reaching out to the unhoused population. And so we're working together with our human services to potentially go out, whether it be monthly, weekly, together collectively as a group, including our mental evaluation team, you know, whether it be Healthcare in Action, whether it be care teams, and our deputies to go try and assist those individuals that are in need and try to get them the help that they want. A lot of the time is the bedding. I was speaking to him about Commissioner Post in regards to when we had to deal with the Tarzana Treatment Center, when probably 2-3 years ago, where we had them come to the station. It was a pilot program where we were working with any individuals who were arrested for the use of narcotics. We would refer them to Tarzana Treatment Center, and out of the, and don't quote me on the numbers, 24, 36 that we had during that pilot program, I think there was only 3 individuals that chose to get treatment, but only one got in a vehicle and then on the way over there decided to didn't want to participate anymore, because a lot of the times the beds are not local. So we would have to go with wherever the bedding, you know, wherever they have room for them. It could be LA County, but not in West Hollywood or adjacent. It could be Riverside County, you know, San Bernardino, you know, LA, in the city of LA. So a lot of the time, that's one of the issues, because they don't want to leave West Hollywood. So, and that's a challenge that's posed to us. And I know that the Human Services, you know, department has, through the city, has a multitude of different services. We just have to figure out how we can bridge that gap of going, you know, unified together, not maybe to all the groups, but just knowing who to refer them and where.
Great. Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Vice Chair?
Just thank you. Good to see you all. Just a question on the traffic statistics. How do these compare from last year? I mean, we've heard it's one of the #1 complaints we hear, I think, from people, is just how people are driving not very well these days, especially on some of our side streets, not stopping at stop signs, running through red lights after they've been red for seconds, feels longer. Just curious, like how do you think this data compares to last year?
I don't have to do the actual comparison of traffic citations in regards to last year. So that's something that I could bring up for the next meeting. But I know that there's many things that we're doing. I know that anytime there is a complaint, whether I'm sitting here in city council or I get an email from somebody from the community or it comes directly through the city, there's a complaint of whatever traffic, whether it be running stop signs or just the high rate of speed, the traffic deputies focus on that. Like for example, over the weekend, there was they focused on Sunset because there was complaints about the noise level during the PM hours on Saturday and Sunday, and then maybe potentially during brunch hours on Sunday. So they did an operation where they monitored the traffic and to try and see how, whether there was an issue with speeding or whether there was an issue with the noise complaints of these loud cars or not legal exhaust cars. And I can tell you from the initial thing that they did over the weekend, a lot of it is stock vehicles. They're high-end vehicles that are out of state. They're regulated out of state, meaning they're purchased from out of state and registered here, but California doesn't check them for the compliance, for California compliance. So a lot of the people that they stopped was a lot of education, talking to them in regards to, okay, your vehicle, yes, it's registered in California, but you're not California compliant. A lot of them didn't know that. So it's both either we do sites and there's also warn and advise just to make sure that they're aware of that their vehicles are not. But that's something that we're going to continue to do on those streets. And also, speed. Speed is, we're doing. It was brought up that Fountain, we needed to do more enforcement in Fountain, and that's where they're focusing on. So there's a rotation of where all the traffic, deputies do. So we do. I mean, if there's specific complaints, you let me know, and then we forward it to them. But I don't have the numbers comparison to last year.
You don't want that many emails from me?
No.
Thank you very much.
Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers?
We don't have any public speakers on this item.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Sergeant and Lieutenant. Next item on our agenda is item from staff. Are there any community safety updates?
Good evening, and thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. There has been a change of date to the Public Safety Appreciation Event, which will now be taking place on March 26th. We will be recognizing the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, and our block-by-block ambassadors here at City Council chambers from 11:30 to 1:30, which will include a luncheon and an awards ceremony. Please save the date. The city has begun planning for the Los Angeles Marathon. We will continue working closely with our sheriffs and fire department to ensure the appropriate street closures and public safety measures are in place. The LA Marathon is just around the corner on Sunday, March 16th. As a reminder, we encourage all community members to sign up to receive emergency notifications by texting your zip code to 888-777. This includes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
And Chair, I actually just also wanted to provide one additional update to the Commission and to the community. The Los Angeles County Office of Immigrant Affairs is encouraging immigrant communities to access the resources that it has on its website. The city will be amplifying that information as well in our bus shelters. We do have digital signage, as we know, that are throughout the community, and so we'll be pushing out messaging as well as it relates to community members to know their rights if they are happen to be approached by immigration and customs enforcement. So that concludes our updates.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda, item 10, is our second round of public comments. Commission Secretary, do you have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we do have one in chambers. Jonathan Wilson, if you want to approach the podium, you will have 3 minutes.
Sorry for my eagerness a bit ago. Hello, Chair and other commissioners. I just want to say, first of all, it does sadden me a little bit that our public safety executors have to spend time working on the ICE stuff, and that's one thing I got out of this meeting that makes me a little upset. So I do acknowledge that they will be strapped probably in the months coming. So that just saddened me a little bit. But the other piece also I wanted to do, by the way, my name is Jonathan Wilson. I am a resident, a business owner, and also I happen to be on the Social Justice Advisory Board, although I'm not representing them right now in this commentary. I do want to say there is something about the CPE study that happened about a year ago that they gave to the Public Safety Commission. And I just want to know, are we doing anything about any of those recommendations? Because I know that LGBTQ training came out of that, but I know that that wasn't really the topic that was brought up in that particular study. So it would be great to hear if we can come back to maybe BIPOC training, something along the lines that basically would show that there was some impact that was made by that study that was performed. The other piece, I also wonder, and I just have a management consulting background, and I often think, what is our desired outcome? And I look at our executives of the different entities, and they're giving these reports, but why, right? So is it for awareness? Is it to drive decisions? Because I don't know if we have enough data or we're getting the right data to drive decisions. I think you need to understand trends, right? So for example, when we look at the crime report, we have zeros for February through December. If we knew what November and December looked like, we would know a 3-month trend around something. So we could actually make a decision and say, wow, this is trending in the wrong direction. We need to make a movement around this. And the question really we should be asking, in my opinion, is what do we need to do differently, right? For example, you look at Sunset Boulevard and Plummer Park, and it looks to me as though, anecdotally, I'm hearing stories that it's unsafe to be in those areas. I also recognize that those are two areas where it's trending, where there's more crime in those areas for the month of January. So it's one of those things, well, do we need to do something differently in those areas? And are we asking those questions of ourselves? So that's just where I am. And then just in terms of also, when we talked a lot about theft from motor vehicles. Well, if we look at the 12-month report, we're already trending to be 63.16% above where we were last year. So if it continues in that direction, that's going to be a lot of vehicle theft. So these are things like anecdotally we're hearing it, and then we're noticing stuff on the paper, but how do we actually merge the two to bring more action? So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And that is all for the public comments.
Thank you. Item 11 on our agenda is commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments at this time? Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions for staff. Maybe Director Rivas, if you can help refresh my memory. I remember I brought up last year a bar relay system in the event that we have an active emergency. Has any movement been done with that? And also, I had asked about bollards to be placed in high incident areas, Fountain La Brea, Santa Monica and Formosa, Santa Monica and Fairfax. And I know you said that was a traffic issue, that traffic would deal with that, but do we have any updates on that either?
Thank you, Commissioner Hallman. So as it relates to the bollards, if I remember correctly, I think it was related to a traffic collision or traffic collisions that were occurring in a particular intersection of the city. And so, yeah, my response in that type of instance would be that that's something that our traffic engineers would work through in Public Works. But I know most recently with the devastating situation that occurred in New Orleans regarding that active shooter situation, that conversation has reemerged in terms of bollards being placed, not just for traffic collision related instances, but for public safety purposes. And so that discussion actually is occurring internally within the organization with a variety of different representatives, public works being mentioned, public safety as well in our city manager's office. And so we are looking at potential placement of bollards in certain areas of the city, or even temporary bollards that would be applied as folks in the community and the commission see that we place a number of barriers, if you will, whether that's concrete K-rail. And most recently, during Halloween last year, we had Meridian barricades, which are used throughout a number of communities as well. And so we're going to be looking at placements of those. I don't have a specific timeline as it relates to that. And the ones that we use during special events or major events are temporary. But looking at potential other locations, if there is a possibility of us placing a bollard, let's say permanently, then that's something that we're going to be taking a look at as well. And then your first question, Commissioner Hallman, remind me again what it had.
It was the emergency relay system for all of our bars in the event of an active shooter situation.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we did have a meeting, a public safety related town hall with our business community. We typically have 2 a year where we send out invitation and we actually invite folks actually to come here to the council chambers, and we have our West Hollywood Sheriff Station, we have code enforcement staff, and obviously community safety staff on the city side. And so that is something that was discussed. It's difficult from the business's point of view because they do have a lot of turnover from their managers, and they want to make sure, and obviously we want to make sure that when we are communicating out during a certain situation, that we have folks that are on the ground that are there, right? It's difficult if you're maybe including a business owner that is out of the country, or a business owner that's out of state, right? And then kind of the time frame of when they see that message and then they're communicating that to their general managers. But one of the things that we have explored is the use of enhancing our Everbridge Nixle platform, which does include that capability for us to create a specific channel for business owners and contacts. And so it's a matter of us updating, creating that specific channel, or including them when we issue something out to the entire community during an active shooter type situation. So those are things that we're currently discussing. I know we had a conversation actually this morning regarding that for quite some time, and we're going to continue to have communication surrounding a variety of emergency type communication, and that's obviously one of them in an active shooter situation. But in terms of just creating like one form of messaging amongst business contacts, it didn't really look like that was something that businesses wanted to kind of get involved in. They really want to have something that would be pushed out, by us, by the sheriff's station during that type of incident response, but allowing kind of the continual check-ins that are occurring amongst the businesses, kind of that happen the way that it's occurring now. But as I mentioned, we do have at least 2 public safety town halls with our business community. We typically hold one in person, one virtually, and we'll continue to bring that up. That's something that's on the checklist in terms of making sure we're tapping into that community, hearing input, hearing feedback from them on maybe something different, because even though we had that conversation last year, obviously things have changed with the situation that occurred in New Orleans and with the fires recently, right? And so things obviously change perspectives, and so we'll be sure to kind of rehab that conversation to see if maybe that is something that the businesses want to explore.
I just hope there's urgency placed on this because the tenor has changed in this country. And I think we need to be vigilant and we need to be ready. And so this is a big concern that I have, living here over 30 years, being proactive, not reactive. And also the same with the bollards. I know you said there are conversations going on. Do those conversations involve a presentation coming to us, anyone looping us in, letting us know what might happen, what's been decided, what's been discussed? Because I've seen trendsetters hit 7 times.
Relates to any sort of traffic collision locations, that's not something that would come to the Public Safety Commission. I know when it was asked before, the more appropriate commission would be the Transportation and Mobility Commission. That falls under their purview as it relates to that. But if there is an item that ever goes to that commission, we can certainly make that request, right, to our Public Works Department to see about them providing the same type of presentation, or at least us forwarding over, like we typically do, anything that's relevant to the Public Safety Commission. As it relates to the public safety, kind of looking at where we would place it, you know, a lot of these things, even whether it's traffic collision related or public safety related, there's a lot of things to consider, you know, the width of the sidewalk, the infrastructure. I mean, because essentially when you're placing a bollard, if you are going to be placing something that's going to be able to prevent a certain volume of impact from a vehicle that's wanting to do some harm, maybe in an event, or even if it's, you know, a traffic collision related, you know, those bollards obviously are certain sizes and diameters, and now that's something that we're placing in the public right away, right? And so we need to look at the infrastructure. There's a certain depth of that bollard that needs to go down into the ground, right? A certain depth. And so if we have infrastructure lines, utility lines, those are all things that have to be vetted and taken a look at. And we may have some areas where we have pretty wide sidewalks, as we know, right? And so we need to look at all of that, and that's something that needs to be surveyed. But there's things that could be done temporarily for public safety reasons that we always consider, and we're obviously going to have even more of a heightened conversation for any of our events, you know, because of what we've seen has occurred in another state. And we actually, in fact, had that conversation right after with our West Hollywood Sheriff Station and other public safety partners. And so I know a lot of communities are taking a look at that. So we don't have specifics. Again, I don't want to share or commit to a certain timeline, but if there's relevant information, most certainly we'll be sure to share that with the commission, as well as to the city council. You know, anything that's going to be permanently done, those are things that are going to have to go through a process in terms of hiring a contractor, right, and going through that budgetary allocation process. And so that would necessitate an item. If it's something temporary for a major event, then that's something that generally goes to the city council as a part of a package or a line item. But we, again, don't go into much detail as it relates to kind of the thought process and whatnot for public safety related reasons. But for whatever we can share and that there's a comfort level, we certainly will.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to ask a quick question, Director Rivas. You know, in regards to that email we received from a resident of West Hollywood in regards to the increase of vehicle break-ins on, excuse me, Ogden and Genesee off of Romaine. You know, the letter also mentioned lighting on our residential streets as well as along the business district along Santa Monica Boulevard. What would have to be done to make the residential streets more brighter, as well as the lighting along Santa Monica Boulevard? I know maybe 2-3 years ago, don't quote me on it, they did start replacing some of the street lamps to LED lights, if I'm not mistaken. Have all of those been completed, if you're aware of? Because my street became very brighter with the LED lights. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be throughout citywide for the residential streets along Santa Monica as well. Because currently those blue lamp posts that we have along Santa Monica Boulevard, I think that's just for design purposes. It's not really much lighting given to you. So I would like to know what could be done by the commission, any recommendations we can do to evaluate the lighting system in West Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. It also goes into the infrastructure kind of assessment. And so I don't know, like, the nuts and bolts and the exact numbers, but I do know that there was, as you mentioned, upgrading and enhancement done to street lighting along the same lines when the city actually purchased a number of the street lights from Edison. And so they had upgraded and enhanced that lighting, not only to make it brighter, but also it's more efficient from a cost perspective. And so I don't know what the plan is, because that is something that's handled by our Department of Public Works. But we can certainly get more information and provide that. And like any residential street or even commercial thoroughfare, it all stems from the capabilities of what's existing, what's there, and kind of budgeting resources for replacement and upgrades, and if that's something that obviously is doable, which you can replace anything, but it's all a matter of construction and kind of development and all that. And so I don't know the ins and outs of every single situation, but if there are potential issues that we're seeing trends as it relates to that, then that's something that we could be a part of the discussion from the public safety side and making recommendations to Public Works to take a look at.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Post?
Even in terms of the vehicle entries, I know part of Prop 36 was an increase or a felonizing. I think the law specifically says breaking into a vehicle with intent to steal is now a felony. So there is additional, at least law to support, I think, increased enforcement of that, but something to talk about next meeting. The two other things I had was just the after action report. That was something that was discussed in last meeting out of the emergency kind of event with the fires. Is there going to be like a formal after action report that's kind of put together as a response, kind of looking at the city's response to the fires?
So the city council actually did have a directive to city staff to debrief, which we already do a debrief on any type of emergency or potential emergency situation, obviously, that occurred adjacent to the city. We didn't have an emergency situation that occurred in the city of West Hollywood, but of course we know adjacent there were a number of situations that were occurring. So yes, there will be an item that's taken back to the city council with information on that, as well as ways to improve communication, because I think we've heard that loud and clear from the community. We've heard that from the commission. We've heard that from city council as well, and so those are definitely things that are going to be coming back.
Awesome. And then the last thing was it'd be great to get an update or even the original study that was mentioned by Jonathan that CPE did, just so that we could be familiar with that. But I'll make sure to check that myself as well. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Blau?
Thank you. Really quick on the topic of traffic as well. I know that speed cameras are not currently legal in the state of California. Red light cameras are, as far as I'm aware. I know that there's some in Culver City. There might be some in Beverly Hills. We don't have any in the city of West Hollywood. Is that something that we've looked at before, or I could propose it right now?
Yeah, Commissioner Blau, actually we did. The city of West Hollywood did install, and I don't know the exact number, but we did install a number of red light cameras. And then the city council at that time took an action a couple of years later to remove all of those red light cameras. So we did install them, but they were removed. It was before my time here with the city, and I think that program probably concluded, if I'm not mistaken, like in 2018. And I was going to look to Fanny or Jason, but I don't know if they were here at the station as well, but around that time frame. But we did have some, they were removed. And the speed cameras, there was a legislative item from the governor's office that did allow and is allowing certain cities to actually implement a pilot program as it relates to that. We, as our city, we're not one of those selected communities, but we are making a request to see if that is something that would be feasible as a part of that pilot to be able to install speed-related cameras. Outlined, they have like a certain criteria and whatnot that the state kind of relates. So it's something that we would be looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other commissioner comments?
All right, so if there are no more commissioner comments, the Public Safety Commission will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, March 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in West Hollywood Public Park, Meeting Room, Council Chambers.
Bringing the community together in unity is a great opportunity for neighbors to get together and meet folks that they've never met before. And more importantly, for our public safety partners at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, our fire department, our block-by-block security ambassadors, and even city staff, right, to get to interact, come out, meet with them face-to-face.
I think that preparedness is something that we harp on a lot, and I like the neighborhood, and we'll take every one of those that we can possibly get, especially a community like this that is so engaged.
Being part of the community and providing public safety in conjunction with the sheriffs and code enforcement, just providing support, making sure that everyone's having a good time and remaining safe, and giving information about our program. Our services are available 24/7, so we want to make sure that people know that.
Part of what makes West Hollywood so special is that the community looks out for one another. They look out for the neighborhood. So I think this is important for people to communicate directly to the council with a variety of different issues and concerns that people have. So it's a great opportunity to connect with the community.
Tonight's event is really important for the Sheriff's Department because it brings all our public safety partners together in the community, that we're here for them, and they have a face to match with the uniform, essentially, because people who associate us a lot of times with just a uniform, and bringing us here to these events puts a face to that uniform. Here in West Hollywood, we're very home-based, so all the people that work here really want to work here, really want to be here. So we have a lot of ties with our community. We have deputies that feel like this is like their second home, essentially. So it's more big department, but small town feel.
To make the kid laugh, you need to behave like a kid. Like very exaggerated emotions and actions.
We are in Plummer Park Fiesta Hall in the Candyland show. This is wonderful fairy for kids and adults from Rulywood and Marmalade's Kids Show. This performance is about sweets, candies, Prince Sugarcorn, Princess Marshmallow, it's me, and Paper and Greedy Queen. It's like Disneyland or your favorite cartoons, but on stage.
Here was many kids, so happy. I played Prince Ice Cream, aristocratic character, I could say, yeah, like something from the French 19th century.
We tell story about how to make deep friendship, how to love each other, how to decide to solve any problems with your friends if you can't, for example, to share with somebody. Well, we tell how to share with your friends, how to be happy because of this. We love kids and they are so worried about our characters and it's so fun.
I was trying to make kind of jokes that also adults will understand, and maybe at least it will give them a smile.
We will play in English and in Russian in December. It will be Christmas Candyland show and Happy New Year Candyland show. We're looking forward to see you.
We are here at Ciclavia in West Hollywood for the Meet the Hollywoods event, making sure our streets are safer for everyone. There's no cars, and it is so important to be working with our partners in Los Angeles and across our borders, because when our streets are safe for all of us, we all live healthier and better lives.
You know, whether you drive or bike or walk, it's always good to be able to come out to Ciclavia to be with people who just want to be out and have fun. So let's have some fun.
Today, I'm most excited to be riding my bike with all my friends, stopping by some of my favorite businesses, and just seeing how happy everyone is.
Ciclavia is about you all, about us, about community.
Ciclavia is a great opportunity. It gets tens of thousands of people out here thinking about their city and how to make it better, experiencing the city in a different way at a different speed, and really thinking about why they can't do this more often and what it would take to do that with infrastructure right here in West Hollywood. We're out here talking about our bike and pedestrian mobility projects and how we're making the city safer to walk, bike, or roll. We have projects coming up on Willoughby and Fountain that we're excited to get people's input on, as well as plans for where to put e-bike charging